The search party stood in a loose semicircle around the remains of the missing worker, no one saying a word. A few of the grizzled frontier men made the sign of the cross, while others averted their gaze from the grisly scene. After searching for the missing cannery worker for days, they had finally found the well-liked man, or at least what remained of him. One of the younger men retched while another bent down to check the body. The leader of the search party scanned the forest, thinking what everyone else refused to say. The monster of Portlock, called Nanak by the local natives, had struck again. The idyllic town of Portlock is the last place you'd expect to encounter a fearsome monster. Perched on the stunning Alaskan coastline, this town was founded as a fishing village on the southern edge of the Kenai Peninsula. The area offered an abundance of natural resources for anyone willing to brave the remote wilderness. Only a few years after being founded, a tight-knit community had formed, centered on the lucrative fishing and canning industries. This time was marked by optimism about the future, as businesses and houses sprouted on the shore like mushrooms. The town's fishermen hauled in nets overflowing with fish, while the canneries worked tirelessly to process the goods and ship them to market. The future seemed bright. But deep in the primeval forest surrounding the settlement, something sinister lurked. Experienced hunters and trappers disappeared without a trace. Eerie sounds echoed among the trees at night, and a sense of dread permeated the town. The troubles began with the unexplained disappearances of villagers. At first, only one or two went missing every year. And deep in the backwoods of Alaska, it was easy to explain someone not returning from a hunting trip or a prospecting expedition. But as the number of missing grew, a sense of unease and fear settled over the town like a lead blanket. Women spoke in hushed tones about hearing eerie sounds at night, while the men reported seeing shadowy creatures moving among the trees. Seeing strange figures was nothing new to the people of Portlock, as hunters and trappers had long told of creatures watching them from the edge of the forest. But these accounts had always been dismissed as tall tales or exaggerated local folklore. However, the death of one logger would make all these stories far too real. One of the earliest recorded disappearances in Portlock, Alaska, was that of Andrew Kamluck. At the time, he was working as a logger in the forest when something terrible befell him. After he didn't return from a day of logging, concerned villagers set out to check on him. What they found defied explanation. The missing logger was found near where he'd been working, killed by a single blow to the head. Upon scouring the area, they found the crane, something far too heavy for a single man to lift, was covered in blood and had been tossed aside as though it was a child's toy. Something impossibly strong had picked up the massive piece of equipment and bludgeoned the logger to death. The villagers barely had time to mourn the loss of Andrew Kamluck before another disappearance shook Portlock. A prospector, heading out to mine for some gold in the nearby mountains, disappeared without a trace. The search party who set out from the village found the man's camp completely undisturbed. Nearby, they found a single massive footprint, far too large to have been made by a man. Despite extensive searches by local trappers and woodsmen, no trace of the prospector was ever found. Not long after, Tom Larson, a local woodworker, went out to chop some wood when he encountered a towering creature on the beach. He retreated to his home to arm himself, but when he returned with his rifle, he was overcome with dread upon reaching the monster. Many years later, he was recorded as saying he could never explain why he didn't shoot the creature. The terrifying encounters only grew in frequency. Hunters tracking a moose walked into a scene of unimaginable carnage. Something had slain a moose and then carried the carcass away, leaving only a flattened, blood-stained area in its wake. Not even a full-grown grizzly bear could accomplish such a feat. The anxiety permeating the village continued to climb as cannery workers heading up into the hills to hunt started to disappear. What few bodies turned up were left in a terrible state. One slain worker's body was washed downstream into Port Chatham, where its appearance was said to have horrified the local residents. As more sightings of the creature haunting Portlock continued to pour in, the fear among the townsfolk reached a frenzied pitch. Many felt they were being stalked by something not of this world, a creature ripped from native mythology. This sentiment only became stronger as the encounters grew more frequent, and the witnesses claimed to have seen enormous, hairy humanoids. While some researchers today believe the monsters stalking the forest were the legendary Sasquatch or Bigfoot, the monster of Portlock was far more terrifying. The creatures were said to have glowing red eyes, passed easily through the thickest brush, and possessed immense physical strength. One local resident who set out to hunt game claimed to have stumbled upon one of the beasts during twilight. The man spoke of an unnatural silence descending over the forest. He said it was as though every insect, bird, and animal had fled in terror. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of the beast. As he turned to face it, the monster reared up to its full 8-foot height. Its matted fur was as dark as coal, and in the fading light of the day, the creature's eyes glowed like embers. The hunter couldn't even raise his weapon, as a sense of dread gripped him tightly. As he stumbled away, he breathed a sigh of relief as the beast disappeared back into the shadows. Meanwhile, the dire situation in Portlock continued to escalate. One woman reported her husband had never returned after going out to fetch firewood one night. Despite a massive search, no trace of him was ever found. Another young man set out to find the truth about the forest with his friend. As they delved into the dark woods, they encountered the same unnerving silence the hunter had described. Then, a guttural grunting filled the woods, seemingly coming from all sides. Without warning, a massive, shadowy figure emerged with glowing red eyes. The boys ran for their lives, barely escaping from the creature. Reports like this one made the villagers avoid the dark forest surrounding Portlock at any cost. People now believed a monster dwelled in the shadowy world under the forest's dense canopy. To make matters worse, the townsfolk reported unsettling events that defied explanation. Objects began to move on their own. Lights flickered in the night sky, and ghostly figures always seemed to lurk in the periphery of their vision. Yet, when they worked up the nerve to look, the shadowy creatures disappeared without a trace. It was at this time that the Nanak legend gained prominence among the townsfolk. The Alutiiq people of Alaska had long spoken of the Nanak. Their oral traditions described it as a Bigfoot-like creature, which was said to inhabit the most remote parts of the state. This monster was said to possess supernatural powers and an intelligence far greater than any beast. The natives of the region had long spoken of encounters with the Nanak. While some believed the creature protected the forests, others saw it as a malevolent spirit, with no other goal than to drive the humans from the shores of Portlock. Armed with the knowledge of what they were facing, the townsfolk set out to hunt down the Nanak. Trappers, hunters, and fishermen scoured the forest for any sign of the creature. What they found only added to the growing panic in the town. Massive footprints, far too large to be human, were found along the forest's edge, worryingly close to the village. But the discoveries didn't stop at the monster's tracks. The hunters found game which had been torn to shreds by something with impossible strength, and claw marks in trees too high for any known animal to make. In this environment of fear and uncertainty, the once close-knit community began to unravel. Businesses suffered as people refused to leave their homes after nightfall, and the once bustling cannery fell silent. Isolation and suspicion became rampant, while those who could afford to flee did so. The economy, dependent on the fishing and canning industry, began to crumble. The fish, once so abundant, became scarce, and the canneries, with a lack of fish, started to lay off workers. By the late 1940s, the fear had reached a fevered pitch. The constant disappearances and attacks led the few remaining villagers to abandon the settlement. Homes, businesses, and even the cannery were left to rot as every single resident fled to safety. Portlock remains a ghost town to this day, a stark reminder of what happens when humans encounter forces beyond their comprehension. In recent years, the Portlock monster has attracted increased attention from paranormal enthusiasts and cryptozoologists. Several expeditions have set out to the abandoned village to uncover the truth about what happened so many years ago. At this time, no definitive evidence has been found to explain what happened at Portlock. Thank you for watching this episode of Shadowy Visions. What do you think happened to the village of Portlock? Leave your theories in the comments below. Before you go, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. And don't forget, always watch the shadows, because they're almost certainly watching you.